There was some very important breaking news this morning, May 23rd, 2022, and I thought you needed to know and hear about this. This was posted by the House Freedom Caucus, and this is what their Twitter account says. We support open, accountable, and limited government, the Constitution and the rule of law, and policies that promote the liberty, safety, and prosperity of all Americans. So they have stood up, written a letter to the president asking him to stop trying to cede the sovereignty of the U.S. to that international organization. This was breaking news on their Twitter feed this morning. Breaking news, the Freedom Caucus demands the Biden administration halt efforts to empower the mismanaged and corrupt international group called the WHO. And then there's a full letter that they sent to the White House. The letter's not very long, so I'll read it to you. The letter has the House Freedom Caucus as the letterhead of the stationery. May 23rd, 2022, President Joseph R. Biden Jr., the White House, 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, Northwest, Washington, D.C., 20500. And they stated this in the letter. Dear President Biden, the House Freedom Caucus urges you to halt your efforts to empower the World Health Organization and instead either immediately resume President Trump's withdrawal from the body or at the very least push serious reforms to aggressively correct the organization's rampant corruption and ineffectual leadership. As the 75th World Health Assembly meets in Geneva this week, your administration is expected to propose amendments to the WHO International Health Regulations, the set of rules governing responses by the agency and its member states to international public health emergencies, reportedly aimed at targeting China's manipulation and obstruction of WHO throughout the demic. These amendments, in fact, empower the same individual most responsible for enabling that nation's malfeasance. WHO Director General Tedros, not only did you fail to propose an alternative candidate to Dr. Tedros, who is expected to be elected to a second term without opposition this week, you are now attempting to hand him more control. We call on you to instead use the 75th World Health Assembly as an opportunity to demand a radical course correction and change in leadership. Furthermore, as efforts continue by WHO member states to negotiate a global demic treaty, we demand that you provide the American people with total transparency and respect for our nation's sovereignty. Under no circumstances should you cede our government's operational control in a public health emergency to an international body. In the event any agreement is reached on a global demic treaty, we expect you to fully comply with Article 2, Section 2 of the U.S. Constitution, which clearly states that the President shall have power by and with the advice and consent of the Senate to make treaties, provided 2/3 of the senators present concur. Sincerely, the House Freedom Caucus. Now, David Sidman wrote yesterday, May 22nd, 2022, that this Christian German lawmaker warns of WHO international takeover of the public health bodies. And this was written by David Sidman on Israel365news.com. It says MEP Christine Anderson warns that the WHO demic treaty aims to give the WHO de facto governing power over its member states in the event of a demic without involvement or consultation with national governments or national parliaments. On May 11th, German parliament member of European Parliament, MEP, Christine Anderson, delivered a shocking address blasting the newly proposed WHO Demic Treaty. Anderson cautioned the abolition of democracy by the global elites continues. On March 3rd, the EU Commission was authorized to renegotiate the treaty with the WHO on behalf of the member states under the guise of improving global demic response. The plan is to allow the WHO to seize executive governance powers of the member states in the case of a demic, Anderson warned. Granting government powers to a non-elected body is the exact opposite of democratic recourse and takes away any possibility for the people to hold officials accountable. This amounts to no less than disenfranchising the people. I am imploring you to do what you were elected to do, she called on her colleagues. Look into this and protect the rights of the people. So this Christian lady is standing up and speaking out, and you know, the righteous stand up and speak out against this force of evil. Earlier this month, Israel 365 News reported that officials from the Biden administration are working to give the WHO the power to unilaterally declare a health emergency in any country, thereby giving them emergency powers. The message from the administration and the vote were going unreported by the heritage media, but former Congresswoman Michelle Bachmann has been working hard to sound the alarm. Now, this was what I talked about when I posted that announcement, and I only posted the video over on Rumble, where they don't censor you like YouTube does and take away your constitutional rights. It's very comforting to know that the House Freedom Caucus that stands up for the Constitution has written this letter to the president to try to stop him from handing over our sovereignty to this international body that we have no control over. Now, the other thing that's really horrible about it is that they can do anything to any nation anytime they want without speaking to that country. They can shut down an entire country and have the power to do that. Now, I just read that other letter to you. I believe it was Adam Eliyahu Berkowitz that wrote about the Sanhedrin also has spoken out. The rabbis also spoke out against this, saying that instead of trusting in God, this would be handing their power over to this corrupt group. And they're trying to stand up and speak out against this evil. So we can still be praying about this, because from what I read about it, it appears that the thing, even if it's voted on and it passes, it appears that nations can backtrack and they can get out of it, but it would be a lot easier to stop it dead in its tracks before it goes any further than it would be to have it pass and then try to, you know, back out. And, you know, if it's somehow stopped by this global group of people, it would just be such a totalitarian existence for everyone. Now, one of the shocking things that I saw when I went to the international body's website, this WHO group has on their website all the things about how our environment and climate change and all of that is involved in our health. So we know that that's going to be a part that they're trying to implement. That's why they're trying to get us to cede our sovereignty over to it. The other thing that I noticed is that they had a video on there using the words of the president, "Build Back Better," and it was in connection with the climate situation. So is it any wonder that the president's working with them to cede our sovereignty over to them when it's got the climate situation as well as the Build Back Better phrase that he coined. One more thing. You know, a while ago I talked about connecting the dots and how part of the climate agenda is that they don't want the carbons going out in the air, so they want to try to control that. They didn't want people to travel, so hence the shutdown, lockdown, no flights anywhere, no travel anywhere. And this one article was talking about this treaty and saying that they would have the power at that international organization to shut down any travel. With one of the things that it says that this treaty would enable them to do would be to shut down your abilities to travel, to fly to other states or take other transportation. They could completely shut you down, and the whole country wouldn't have a say. They wouldn't be able to buck up against it, I guess you could say. So it all kind of comes together when you see that the climate agenda is on the international website of the WHO, and it's all coming together that that's part of the control that they really want, and especially the situation with hiking up the gas prices, so people have a struggle to buy gas to be able to drive because they want you to drive the electric cars, etc. And you know, it's all just connected like a stream of craziness. There's just all sorts of things that, you know, the righteous take a stand, and we pray and we ask God to intervene in the affairs of men and women. And we just ask God to protect our country and protect the other countries. And I pray that any country that has handed it over already, they will be able to back out of it somehow. So this was just a breaking news report, and I wanted to bring it to you in case you did not hear that this happened. So I'll just keep looking at the news and see what happens with that. And if anything further develops, I'll let you know. So this is Kimberly Ballard signing out for Elijah and Moses. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you soon.